There's a racial animosity in America that's like a plague of sores festering on the skin of America. Sores that will not be healed by ointment or tincture or even a balm of sweet sage. It is a plague that will not go away and causes eyes in boardrooms of corporate America to lower when it's merely alluded to, causes eyes to lower in the halls of Congress. This hostility is directed at the African American by everybody, including the African American himself.
Fact, 11 teens per day are killed by violence.
Children killing children.
Nationwide, 1 out of 4 teens killed are killed by guns.
By shooting, where innocent bystanders died just as easily as the target.
Last year, in Philadelphia, 81% of the children killed that were 16 years of age and under were African American.
They say you're not allowed to bring no weapons and stuff, but you know, what about our protection? What's going to happen to us? What we going to do? Or somebody try to come to us and do something else, what we going to do?
Across the country, 91% of all blacks murdered are murdered by blacks. There is no end in sight.
My beautiful Songhai people, this is a very, very important mission that we are on today. This mission is to solve the problem which has beset African people for the last 400 years. We know that that sounds like a big, big order. But if you will listen very carefully, you will see that it is not only doable, but will be done. But first, let us follow the mandates of our ancestors and open our meeting by asking the oldest person in the audience for permission to start. Anyone over 88 years old, which I am, then that person can give permission. If not, we will proceed. The next thing we should do after asking permission of the oldest person in the room is to pour libations. Now, as you know, libations is really inviting the illumined ancestors to come into our midst, into our meeting, and guide us with their wisdom. And we do that by calling the names of the illumined ones, and after we have mentioned what they do, what they have accomplished, then we pour a water or some spirit into a plant. So it's a living thing into a living thing. Something that water makes us live. Without it, we will die. And into a plant, which is a living thing. And then we stand up out of deference for our ancestors. We pour libations for Imhotep, the greatest, the brightest of all multi-geniuses in history. He is the one whom the Greeks called Asclepius, the god of medicine. He is the one that Hippocrates looked up to and divined his medical powers. 2,200 years after Imhotep had transitioned. Imhotep is the one who taught the world how to build in stone. And he created the first pyramid, which is called a step pyramid. He created the first hospital. He was a poet, an architect, a mathematician, a genius, in short. So we pour libations for our father, Imhotep, who lived 4,600 years ago, And to him we say, Ashe, Ashe. We pour libations for the Pharaoh who was on the throne when the greatest of all buildings were built, which is the Great Pyramid. And that is Khufu. Khufu. We pour libations for Khufu. And for him we say, Ashe. We pour libations for Hermes, the greatest mathematician of the ages, the one who created algebra, whose book today is in the British Museum. And he did this 3,700 years ago, and when his papyrus was found in the late 19th century, it was taken to the British Museum. And there we can photograph the pages in his book still in living colors after 3,700 years. So for Hermes, we say Ashe. We pour libations for our father, Sunni Ali Bir. Sunni Ali Bir was the emperor of the Shanghai Empire. When it expanded to a size larger than all of Europe, we salute our father, who comes from the part of Africa from which we evolved, the Shanghai Empire. And so for Sunni Ali Bir, we say Ashe. He is the one who conquered Timbuktu after it had been taken some 80 years before by the Islamic forces of these North Africa. So we always remember fondly how he got the empire together in 1468. We show his picture of him marching down the Grand Avenue of Timbuktu when he took back the city of Timbuktu. And for all of them, we say, Ashe. We're so happy today to be able to start the production of a DVD in order to pave the way for one of the greatest projects that Africans in America has undertaken in the past 400 years. And that project is to produce a motion picture which will solve the problem that has been facing us since the first prisoners of war were conquered in the great cities of the Shanghai Empire. But the main point of what we're doing is to get hundreds of you together so that all of us together will have one mind, so that we can have the power that our ancestors who built the pyramids had the power by combining their personal power. So we're going to go through how to obtain personal power and then how to harmonize these hundreds of personal powers into one gigantic mind and produce the motion picture called the medallion, which will trigger the solution to the problem. I think first we should go into how low we have sunken in the eyes of the world, when once we were not only the most respected in the world, the leaders of the world, but gave civilization to the world. Let us look where we are in not only our own eyes, but in the eyes of the world. We are the sickest. We die from more diseases. We kill each other at a rate greater than any race in all of history. We kill each other at the rate of 1 every 72 minutes because we despise our color, our hair, despise our ancestry. We're not only dying earlier than anyone else, not only sicker than anyone, but poorer than anyone else. The Latinos who came here after us have now mounted a national income greater than ours. Their worth, their economic worth is now greater than ours. We are incarcerated at a greater rate than any other race in America. The prisons are full of us. We're only 12% of the population, yet we're 48% or more of the prison population. We make the lowest marks. Our children make the lowest marks in the SATs, in all standardized tests. The school disruptions of schools where the majority of our children go is a daily wave of disruption. Boycott black businesses. The most successful boycott in all of history is the boycott of black Americans of black businesses. Our children who are trying to be adopted, the greatest number of the children who are not adopted, who fail to be adopted, are black children, as if no one wants them. And the question is, why are we so low down in the scale of honor among men, honor for ourselves? I think the answer can be started to be found in the Bible. Now, the Bible is written by the and many of the chapters in the Bible were handed down from our fathers in Egypt, down through the Babylonians, down through the Greek, down through the Hebrews to us, telling us what to do, giving us directions what to do. 9 times it has come down to us that we are to honor our African ancestors. Honor thy ancestors. Exodus 14:20. Honor thy ancestors. Deuteronomy 5:16. Honor thy ancestors. Ephesians 6:3. Honor thy ancestors. Matthew 15:4. Honor thy ancestors. Matthew 19:19. Honor thy ancestors. Mark 7:10. Honor thy ancestors. Mark 10:19. Honor thy ancestors. Luke 18:20. Not only does Matthew 15:4 says that God commanded, saying, honor thy ancestors, and he that dishonors thy ancestors, let him die the death. Now, I don't think it can be clearer than that. If you now, if you don't know who your African ancestors are, then you can't honor them. And if you fail to honor them, it says here, Matthew 15:4, let him die the death. Now, what that means, die the death? Kill each other, die from diseases more than anybody else, die from broken heart because your family's broken up, die from lack of money, lack of successful businesses. All of these, you're dying the death. How are we going to remedy that? We're going to remedy that by teaching you how to honor your ancestors. First, you got to get to know them. We introduce you to a couple of them today. But even more than that, we're going to have to produce something that subliminally gives us the direction and the feeling of regard for our ancestors. Every other race is very, very clear and knowledgeable about their ancestors from the old country, because it tells you in Exodus, in the 10 Commandments, thou art to honor the father and mother of the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. It's obvious God didn't give us America, so how we are so bent on African American history. George Washington Carver, Booker T. Washington, they are great men. We honor the wrong people. Get to know them. They're the icing on the cake. But the cake is Shanghai and ancient Egypt, which is the mother culture of the world. We want to call ancient Egypt Kemet, give it its proper name. Kemet. The Nubians were jet black, with human hair, majestic features. And we're going to go more into that when we get to how are we going to solve the problem. Well, first you have to define the problem. The problem is that the total society, the total world society, including Africans, which includes African Americans, have been programmed by the communications media and lately by television and motion pictures, which is the most powerful of the communications media, have been programmed by them for the last 300 years to despise anything African, despise anything African looks, despise African businesses, despise African people, despise African hair, African lips, and Africa itself. The greatest brainwash in all of history. Territorial imperative is an absolute. It's an absolute necessity for man to relate positively to the land of his ancestry. This will give him three things. Give him stimulation, gives him security, and above all, gives him race esteem. Now, race esteem is the foundation for self-esteem. Without race esteem, you cannot have self-esteem. Race esteem is the flower, and self-esteem is the mere fragrance of that flower. Race esteem gives you and gives all African Americans this pure foundation concerning our ancestry. It wipes away this lack of intrinsic value that white America has put on us. Let's make them believe that they're less than men, that they're really not human. They said, let's tell everybody that. Let's spread the word. We have control of the newspapers and the magazines. We have control of all of the media of communication. Let's make white people believe that. And then they won't establish abolitionist societies. They say, you know, that's a good idea. And in 1805, they began publishing in the newspapers and in the magazines this lie that our fathers and mothers came from a jungle. They did a good job. And they held on to that job until Tarzan came out in the movies in order to further reinforce that lie. And so our children grew up believing that lie. You're beautiful people. We have been programmed by the media, non-deliberately, in my opinion, non-deliberately lately, that is in the last 40, 50 years, to despise our looks through a psychological law called paired associate learning. By pairing our looks with degradation, with crime, lines of criminals, graffitied walls, torn down houses, other evidences of powerlessness and degradation, nobody wants to be powerless. So everybody rejects those looks with that powerlessness. On the other hand, if a certain type of looks with poorly pigmented skin and unevolved hair and pinched features are always paired with beautiful surroundings, dressed in beautiful clothing, speaking beautiful language, solving great intellectual problems, doing great moral deeds, evidencing all of the facets of power, then everybody wants to identify with power and want to identify by association with those looks. This is why Napoleon, he didn't realize what he was doing, but when he saw my nose on the Sphinx, it tore him up to think that this great thing of power, this huge monument of power, that didn't look like him. So he ordered his soldiers to train their guns on the nose of the Sphinx, to tear away the out, cursed spot, as in Hamlet. See, the old Europeans knew who we were. The Greeks knew who we were. That's why they had laws on the books of the United States forbidding us to learn to read and write, so we wouldn't find out who we are. No other race, no other group that people ever came to America's shores had laws on the books forbidding them to learn to read and write, forbidding them to know their language. They was beaten out of us with clubs. Not allowed to speak your own language, not allowed to use your own name. We're the only race here that can't speak our own language because it's beaten out of us on the plantations of the South. Make us feel that we're nothing, nobody. Now, this problem divides itself into two impact areas. The first impact area we call psychic trauma. The second impact area we call absence of the territorial imperative. Now, psychic trauma comes from without, comes from the dominant group. Psychic trauma manifests itself in attacks of aggression, attacks on our genetic worth. Books are written. Humiliation abounds. Low teacher expectancy in the schools so that 90% of our children can't learn. This manifests itself in what we call psychic trauma, coming from without. The stripping of the territorial imperative from us is that second impact stream. What did this do? It gives the feeling that we came from nothing. We are below having evolved to humanness. We're not human, we're apes.
Is that the ape thing you were telling me about?
Well, let me show you. Most white folk believe that we are closer to the ape than they are. When I was in law school, my white comrades said that a brother who was richly pigmented in our room looked like an ape. And because I'm poorly pigmented, they thought I would side with them and laugh at the brother. Why are you saying he's an ape? Why are you saying that? I said, look at the picture of the ape up here on the bulletin board. And I looked at the picture, it was just like this picture. I said, well, since we're going to be lawyers, then we should be analytical in our thoughts. They said, yeah, that's right. I said, well, let's look at the ape's hair. What kind of hair does he have? And they looked like you're looking. I said, well, he's got straight hair. I said, that's right. The ape has straight hair.
Wow.
African Babies have straight hair. We go through the straight hair stage at 8.5 months gestation, and some are born with straight hair. But that's an animal hair. It's animal hair. And we say it's animal hair because in straight hair comes head lice. Black people don't have head lice. Our black hair doesn't have head lice. The head lice people would go out of business. They depended on us buying their insecticide. Look at the hair coming out of his chin. It's dead straight. Hair on his head, dead straight. Hair on his body, dead straight. So this is, and the other thing, this ape has hair all over his body. We don't have profuse body hair like they. I said, look at his lips. Look at his lips.
They're thin.
They're thin lips.
Wow.
Thin lips. We don't have lips like that. We don't have lips that prevents us from enunciating beautiful tones when we sing.
Wow.
Look at his nose. It's narrow.
Narrow nose.
Narrow nose. We don't have noses like that. No. We have beautiful resonant tones when we speak and when we sing. We don't have nasal tones when we speak or sing. That's when the noses are pinched. I said, now look at his ears. He has large ears.
That's right.
We have the smallest ears closest to our bodies than any race on the planet. And he can wiggle his ears. We can't wiggle ours. White folks can wiggle theirs. So don't tell me about we're close to the ape. And look at his skin color. Look at his skin. What color is his skin where the hair isn't? It's white. He's white. That's a white boy.
Well, you know, I had never seen that before. That's absolutely amazing.
Of course, that's why they fooled us all these hundreds of years by saying we look closer to the ape, because they didn't analyze how an ape looks. If the problem is that the total society, including us, has been programmed by the media, then to solve the problem, there has to be reprogramming. And that is what this DVD is all about. Reprogramming of the beauty and grandeur and sophistication of our African background. The reprogramming of the great cities of the Western Sudan that led the world in science and humaneness. The reprogramming of our fathers and mothers who gave to the world the light of humanity in the 14th, the 15th, the 16th, and 17th centuries. We're going to neutralize the poison that comes out of the television by having our own films showing the beauty and the grandeur and sophistication of the Songhai Empire. The most powerful impact on the attitude is that which is the impact on your subconscious subliminally. You know, they outlawed subliminal advertising because it's so powerful. Subliminal means below the threshold of consciousness. You're not even conscious that this is happening to you. Take Color Purple. What big subliminal impact was in Color Purple? Well, because it's subliminal, out of a group of 500, nobody noticed it. What did Steven Spielberg do? And I don't think he did it I think he did it consciously. Look at the color of the men. Look at the color. Think about the color of the various men, of Mr., the color of the girl's father, the color of Suge's boyfriend. Each one, the more richly pigmented he was, the more bestial he was. The less, put it the other way, the less pigmented he was, the more civil and courteous and humane he was. Nobody noticed that, but the subconscious did. And that impact on the subconscious was much more devastating than you could even realize. Drama creates an emotion which is like a sword which pierces the subconscious and changes attitude. Behavior can never change without a change in attitude. And the attitude has to be that black people have the highest intrinsic value of any on the planet. Not only is this supported by science, but it's been supported by lead school experiments in demonstration projects all through Philadelphia, that every time that we gave to classes the beauty and grandeur and sophistication of their African ancestry, their academic proficiency soared, their marks went up, their behavior became exemplary. When we told them that the melanin has a delightful fragrance that it protects them from skin cancer. So the solution has to be truth wrapped up in drama. Only drama, not just knowledge, not just cognition. It has to be drama. What is drama? Drama is composed of 6 elements. In a dramatic story, it has 6 elements. If it's a totally dramatic piece. And those 6 elements are, it has to have love in the story. It doesn't have to be sexual love. We love of a parent for a child. It can be agape love. It has to have violence. It doesn't have to be physical violence. It can be psychological violence. It has to have suspense. It has to have mystique. Mystique is a happening that doesn't have a logical explanation. See? It has to have closure. It has to have closure.
An ending.
An ending. In other words, a dramatic film has to have, all the parts got to come together for it to make sense. And this is all encompassed in that motion picture we call the medallion. So it will do 2 things. It will also put into place the territorial imperative, that is the honor and respect of Africa, of Shanghai, from which we come. And it will shut away from us the darts and arrows from psychic trauma coming from the dominant group hating you. In the picture, they will get the subliminal impact of the beautiful homes our mothers and fathers lived in. Homes made of polished stone sitting on tree-lined avenues. Their subconscious will pick up the university cities, the kinds of opera that we had, the nightclubs. That will be in the motion picture, but it will be just part of the background. Their subconscious is picking up all of these positive things. Meanwhile, they will see our mothers and fathers dressed in beautiful robes of silk and satin and velvet. They will see the medical schools there when one of their boys gets hurt, and how the sophisticated medicine of that era saved his life. All this, the subconscious will pick up. But more than that, I think that this new genre will trigger the imagination of Hollywood, and Genesis will trigger a whole flood of motion pictures like that. And you're going to be glued to you won't be able to take your eyes off the film, even one that you produce. You will be fascinated by the story. The motion pictures are going to subliminally make us love our features, our hair, our color. The motion pictures are going to subliminally make us love our homeland, love our territorial imperative, which we're going to talk about even more. The motion picture is going to raise the great amount of money which we spend with back businesses, so that our children are no longer poor. We're not supposed to be poor. We have an income greater than 6 countries, Canada being one of them. Motion picture is going to change all that, all of this disproportionateness. And so we herald the production of the Medallion, which is going to be our first of a series of motion pictures that's going to change the amount of ills, the number of ills, the disproportion of ills which we suffer. The most definitive role, and the reason why I think it'll play the most definitive role, because the kind of money we're going to be making from this will make, see, Hollywood's interested in one color, green. And we're going to make a lot of money from this film. And Hollywood sees that this is the wave of the future. It will be a done deal for the series. So we don't have to worry about the series right now. When we get this off the ground, when we do this, when we reach this point right here, where thousands and thousands of people down here are congratulating us for what? For a $25 million motion picture which destroyed the myths of African ancestry. The script, The Medallion, needs $25 million in order to produce. What we want to do is to raise each person's personal power who has gotten this DVD, to put him as part of a Personal Power Institute. We have a Personal Power Institute, number 1, we have number 2, number 3. We wish to put those who have received this free of charge in Personal Power Institute 3. And then we shall use psychocybernetics. When your PFC has gotten clear, like it is down here, then your psychocybernetics will work for you. What we want to do is have you look at a picture 15 minutes a day for 15 days in the morning at a certain time. We want to have the hundreds who are members of the Personal Power Institutes. You'll be notified by email from me when that will happen, when the 15 days will start, what time in the morning, and it's got to be consecutive days, consecutive 15 days. The film are the ultimate solution, but we got to get enough people of the mindset so that we can produce the film.
But if 99% of all African Americans are under mind control now,
that's right.
Isn't that going to be a huge, giant leap to counter what is taken over, what, 400 or 500 years?
But we have something now which can do this much better because we have a means of communication now, which is motion pictures that we didn't have hundreds of years ago. It was went by word of mouth. Motion pictures, we can do it in 7 motion pictures, we believe.
So after becoming conscious, what's the next step?
The next step is to start producing the motion picture. I have 3 scripts ready to go. We have to get a groundswell. It'll take 15 days. Now, once the 15 days are up, you don't have to think any more about it. You will be led to do. You don't have to push yourself to do anything. That's the beauty of psychocybernetics. You will be led to do what you're supposed to do. You'll be pushed from the inside to do. You won't have to hear from me, from anybody. You will be led to harmonize with the other hundreds of people who have done this on the same days that you have psychocyberneticized. This is called psychocyberneticizing. Psychocyberneticizing. The 15 days, 15 minutes a day, every morning at 7 a.m. for 15 minutes in a quiet room, away from television, away from radio, away from noises. And every day, for 15 days, you'll be looking at a picture which I'm sending you. And that picture will be a picture of a large plaque. And on that plaque will be certain words. And those words will say, all praises to PPI. Now, PPI means Personal Power Institute. All praises to PPI. That's that large plaque that you're going to receive a picture of, which is sitting on a stage. This plaque is sitting on a stage, and all of the Personal Power Institute members' pictures will be there looking at the plaque. All praises to PPI, the plaque will say. You made it happen. Your $25 million successful motion picture brought to the world the true belief of African people's highest intrinsic value. And there you see the pictures of all the members of the Personal Power Institute #1, with a picture of Dr. Jackie Mayfield representing Personal Power Institute 2, and a picture of Ali Salahuddin representing Personal Power Institute 3. The actual pictures of the members of PPI 1 will be there on that picture. And then the picture of Dr. Mayfield and Salahuddin will be representing 2 and 3. And you'll be on a stage that's drawn, and the audience of the stage will be looking up and applauding. All praises to PPI. You made it happen. That's what we're going to do. That's the point of this whole DVD. To get us all on one accord. We will go through and send to you the harmonizing aspects of getting all these personal power individuals with one mind, one gigantic, powerful mind that will send the message to the universe that we shall solve this problem. And then a time will be over trying to treat the symptoms of the problem for the problem itself. It's not lack of education. It's not lack of money. It's not lack of all the things we've been saying for years and years, lack of political power, lack of sticking together, it's not that at all. We will solve the problem of this hatred and contempt of our intrinsic or ancestral value. And then a new day will be dawning for us. The solution will be triggered by this motion picture that you will produce through your mind power, just like our fathers getting together 4,600 years ago and mounted that 70-ton boulder up to the top of 46 stories high Great Pyramid. So let a new earth arise. Let another world be born. Let a bloody peace be written in the skies. Let a second generation full of courage issue forth. Let a people loving freedom come to growth of healing, and the sense of final clenching be the pulsing in our spirits and our blood. Let the martial songs be written. Let the dirges disappear. Let A race of martyr men and women now rise and take control. Thank you. Amen.